So this is lesson 6 of module 3, and in this lesson we'll be exploring the forms of the demonstrative pronoun haec. So when you get a dictionary entry for this, it's haec, 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 this, and then in the plural it would be these. So if you think this book, but in plural, these books. And so, just like with ele, we have 3 forms: haec for the masculine, haec for the feminine, and haec for the neuter. This pronoun is very irregular, so this is something that you're going to definitely want to make sure that you're writing as I'm going over it, and that you're practicing it a lot. So practice it a few times tonight, practice it a few times tomorrow, and just keep practicing until you really have these forms totally memorized. Okay, so here we're ready to decline. We've got our page all set up with all 5 declensions: nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, and ablative in the singular and in the plural. So you can see those here, singular and plural. And then I've got a column for my masculines, a column for my feminine forms, and a column for my neuter forms. So go ahead and set your page up. You can pause if you need some time. And this is a pronoun just like ele, and do you remember what the special genitive singular ending was? It was an ius. So we're going to be using that same genitive singular here, but we need a different stem. And in this case, we're going to be using an hu. So I know that you don't see that stem in the dictionary entry, you just see an H. So this is part of why it's really important that you're really fully memorizing this form, because there are some interesting things that are happening. When we get into the dative, I'm still going to be using that HU stem. And do you remember what the special dative ending was? It was an I, so I'm going to put those I's in here. But one more thing, we also have a C. And we'll see that a number of our forms in haec, 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 like, for example, haec, haec, and haec, that a number of these have those C's. And so that's just something that you have to remember and memorize this pattern. Practice saying it, practice writing it. There's no simple way. You have to put in the work. So far we have haec, 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 huius, huius, huius. So that I is going to kind of come out like a Y sound stuck in between those two U's. So huius, huius, huius. In the dative, huic, huic, huic. Then when we get into the accusative, we're back to just the H as our stem. And then we're going to have, so normally we would have SEO, O. So normally we would have UM. But when we add in that special C that we're going to see on a lot of our forms, M and C is difficult to say. Hunk is kind of hard to say. So over time, that M changed to a related nasal, a consonant that's formed in the same part of the face, N. So hunk became hunk. And we'll see the same thing here. So what should have been HAMC becomes HANC. And then remember that in the neuter, we're always matching the nominative and the accusative. So we'll have hawk. Into the ablative, we're going to have hoke. So a long O and then a C. Hawk with a long A. So that long A is important. And so is this long O. So don't be forgetting that. And then in the neuter, H-O, long O, C. So these are important macra. If you miss them, the form is wrong. So you need to have those macra. So make a note in your notebook, highlight them, whatever you need to do so that you remember that those are important. When we get into the plural, it becomes a lot simpler. We're going to have our stem, which is H. And then now that we've got our stem, we're going to add on our normal endings. So if you think SEOMO, E, orum, is, os, is. In the plural, in the feminine, we'd have I, arum, is, os, Is. In the neuter, we're going to have a special nominative, which is haec. So just like we had for the feminine singular, that's fairly normal for the neuter plural to match the feminine singular. And then that means we're also going to have haec as our accusative. Why? Nominative and accusative always match. And then we'll go through normal patterns. So normally we would have had, starting from all the way up at the top, we would have had e, o, orum, so that's what we're back to, orum, is, but in this case, haec, is. All right, so plural, not that tricky, but the singular, very special, and something that you can have a lot of fun with as you memorize them. They're fun forms to say. So, starting at the beginning, if you're in a place where you can say these aloud, say them aloud with me. If not, recite them in your head. Get used to listening to them. Hic, haec, hoc. Huius, huius, huius. Huic, huic, huic. Hunc, hunc, hoc. Hoc, hoc, hoc. He, hi, haec. Horum, harum, horum. His, his, his. Hos, hos, haec. His, his, his. Again! Hic, haec, hoc. Huius, huius, huius. Huic, huic, huic. Hunc, hunc, hoc. Hoc, hoc, hoc. Nice long O's and A's. He, hi, haec. Horum, harum, horum. His, his. Hos, has, haec. His, his. All right, so make sure you've written through this whole chart at least once. Okay, so for homework to practice, you guys need to write out the chart for hic, haec, hoc 5 times or until memorized. So if you don't have it memorized after 5 times, you need to keep on working. So do it at least twice, maybe 2 times, looking at the pattern, at the chart. So basically just copying it, but really thinking about what you're doing as you're copying. Don't just mindlessly copy. Think about the forms that you're writing. Think about the things that you know and how you can apply that knowledge to help you remember. And then do it 3 times from memory. And then check yourself. So after each chance, each time you decline, check after each one to see how you're doing, so that you can correct any mistakes. You don't want to write over and over again something that's wrong because you don't want to memorize the wrong thing. So make sure you're checking. After that, most of you will probably have it memorized. If you don't, you should practice it some more until you do have it memorized. So you really want to make sure you've got these forms down. We're going to be practicing with hic and with ille a lot in the next week as we add on even more forms. So a lot of fun coming up with pronouns. Thank you.